Hi, everyone. Welcome to Spill the Tea Radio, where we interview awesome singer-songwriters and those who influence their lives. Spill the Tea Radio explores the journey, creativity, and inspiration behind the songs. My next guest is a versatile artist, singer, songwriter, flautist, and educator. She is inspired by exploring the deeper level of seemingly ordinary experiences and expressing them musically through a lens of honesty and truth. As a singer-songwriter, her original music combines influences of indie pop and folk genres tied together with layers of vocal harmonies and introspective lyricism. Her recent singles, Better from 2023 and Someone I Adore from 2024, mark a new thematic and artistic direction. So, let's spill the tea with Emma Della Rossa. Welcome, Emma.
Thank you so much for having me.
Emma, I want to explore the new direction that you're taking in your music. So, tell us where you were before in 23, and what kind of music you were writing then, and how it's changed to today with the song that we are going to feature on the today's show.
Yeah, so I find for me, my songwriting and my music really mirrors what's going on in my personal life. I draw a lot of influences and inspiration from my own experiences and from those around me. So in 2022, I released my first EP, and that was my first ever music release. And I wrote, it's very much about mental health, but about what it's like to be in the thick of it and to be working through that struggle. And I found that through the process of recording that EP, it really forced me to face those things and really grow in my confidence and grow personally in order to put this project out in the world. And so coming out of that and coming out of that release, I found that not only have I learned a lot about how to navigate mental health, but I've also found a lot of hope and a lot of just being able to incorporate more positive messages into my music to encourage others in their own journey. And so I find that that's where I'm really looking to go forward in my music. I still write about the kind of the fight and the struggle, but it's more through a lens of hope that things will get better, because they do.
People are going to look at you and say, that is a very happy, positive young person. What possible struggles could this individual have in their life, or to see the struggles and the people around them? So what kind of struggles are we talking about?
Yeah, I am a very happy person, and I think that's what has given me a lot of resilience, is that even when, things aren't going well or I'm not feeling great, I still do find a lot of joy in life and in the people around me. But I struggle a lot. For my whole life, I've struggled with anxiety, and I put a lot of pressure on myself to be good and to be better and to do well. And I mean, the pandemic was a difficult time for a lot of people, but at that time, I was really pushing myself far past my limit, and I went through like a pretty significant time of depression and like just physical burnout, mental burnout. So I still struggle with those things a lot, but that was a real turning point for me, hitting that rock bottom. And yeah, it took a lot of like personal reflection, some therapy to get out of that. And I think, yeah, even like daily, I struggle with anxiety, but it's I'm learning how to have grace for myself and accept myself for who I am, and to not feel ashamed about those things.
Many people wonder, how do performers that deal with anxiety manage to get up on stage and perform in front of people. And we hear that time and time again from artists saying, I'm really an introvert. To
Hmm.
get up on stage is really tough for me, but I do it anyways. So how do you deal with that performance anxiety? Is it self-talk before you get up and perform? Do you have to work your way into it? Do you, do you do some meditation beforehand? How do you deal with that performance anxiety?
Yeah, it took a lot of practice. A lot of people use the word exposure therapy of just doing it over and over again and getting used to it. Uh, I'm a flute player, and so during my undergrad, we had practice rooms. It's just a bunch of little rooms lined up next to each other, and you can hear the people next to you. You can hear people in the hallway, and I remember being very nervous to be in the practice room, even when no one was really listening to me specifically. Uh, but even just practicing around other people, I think helps to just let go of that feeling of being judged. But in terms of performing as a singer-songwriter, I found that I really had to meet myself where I was. And the phrase I say to myself is, this is what it is, or like, this is what my performance is right now in this moment. And, I go on and I do my best. But at the end of the day, it's like very like realistic. This is what it is, and it's doesn't have to. I don't have to assign like, oh, this was a good performance or this was a bad performance. It's just what the performance was. And I think for me, sometimes I will talk when I'm on stage, and I'll look back. I'll be like, oh, that was really awkward, or I misspoke or I stuttered, but again, that's just in that moment, that's what it was, and that's who I am. And I think when I try to lean in more to who I am as a person, because sometimes I can be a little bit awkward, or I get a little bit too excited, or I have a nervous energy, and that's who I am. And so if I can be confident in that, then I don't have to worry about being something I'm not. I can just come on stage as I am and do my best.
I think the audience, I know speaking personally, when I'm in the audience and a performer is a little bit more vulnerable or
Mm.
really is themselves on stage and engages the audience, I find that to be quite endearing. And sometimes you cut the performer a little slack when when you sense that vulnerability. You are one of five children,
Yes.
uh, and your passion for music came from your grandma. So, how did grandma influence your life in music?
Yeah, I remember going to her house, like we'd go to weekly family dinners at my grandparents' house, and they had this very out of tune piano in the living room. And every time we'd come over, she'd ask me to play. And I remember always being so nervous because the dining room table was in that same room. And so when she'd ask me to play, my whole family would be sitting at the table and they would clap afterwards, and I would I would kind of like crawl out of the room after I would play my song. But I think and we would have conversations about music, and like she'd ask me questions and we just talk about it. And I think from a young age she could tell that I really loved it, and she obviously like really loved music. She never had an opportunity to learn as a kid, but she always wanted to. And so we really connected over that, and she was always so encouraging of my songs, and like learning music as a kid, but also in what I'm doing now. She watches my YouTube videos on her phone, and she always tells me that like if there's a specific video that she really likes. Yeah, so I had for my whole family. I've always had a lot of encouragement and support to pursue music.
You've had some experiences with busking in
Hmm.
Toronto, young and college area, Harborfront. Tell
Yes.
us about the experience of busking. What's the good, the bad, and the ugly?
Yeah, I remember the first time I went out for a lot of things musically. When I try something new, I find I just have to jump into it and do it, even if it's like not completely fully formed. So the first time I went out, I just I'm like, okay, just gonna grab my guitar and myself, and go. So I didn't have a mic or an amp, and I just went and I played on the street, and I actually made some money. But I learned very quickly that if I wanted to be out there for a longer period of time, I needed to be amplified so I wouldn't completely lose my voice trying to sing over the traffic sounds. But I think, yeah, that's another way of developing that exposure therapy, because not or even for performance anxiety, but also just developing performance skills. Because when you're playing on the street, no one's there to listen to you. They're doing their own thing. So if you really have to, like, you have to do something to catch their attention, right? And so I was able to practice just singing out confidently, like, doing some arm movements when I would play karaoke tracks through the speaker sometimes. And it's a great place to try out new ideas as well and see what resonates.
You and I have something in common. It's very near and dear to both of our hearts. You do a podcast as
Yes.
well, and you interview emerging singers, songwriters, musicians. Tell us about the podcast. How long have you been doing it, and what are some of the highlights for you?
Yeah. So it's called Bedroom Studios Podcast, and I focus on emerging artists, emerging creatives, but I try to interview people from all different genres and different areas of the music industry. And I started in 2023. We just finished our 30th episode, which is really exciting. And I've met a lot of amazing people through doing these interviews. And I think, yeah, I'm thinking about the highlights. I think every episode that I've recorded, I learned something new, and it's like a different experience. And all of the guests I've have had really interesting things to say about their process. We tend to dive really deep into the process of creativity and making music, but also in building your career. Because I find that in a lot of mainstream media and celebrity interviews, they come at it from a perspective of having already made it. But as an emerging artist, I want to know how they got from complete beginner to the point of making it. And I think interviewing the emerging artist community is a really good way to bridge that gap. And so I also really appreciate what you do with this show. It's such a great resource.
Well, who knows? I think maybe there's a tandem
Yeah.
interview coming up in the future where Emma and David will interview an artist for Spill the Tea Radio together, and I will learn some things from another interviewer. Let's get into one of the songs that Emma wrote. This song was released in February of 2025 and takes on a new thematic and artistic direction. Let's take a listen to singer-songwriter Emma Della Rossa and her song, Worse.
You hold me close to you, you want me to be well. I started taking medication for my mental health. I knew what I needed, but there is something in the water, I could feel it. For better or for worse, I said I love you first. Your eyes are looking down as if you couldn't find the words. I try to change myself to be somebody else. Don't get hurt. You make it worse. 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 I call you on the phone, you put me on the shelf. I check my watch and yeah, you only care about yourself. I thought I was happy, we were in love, but only when you don't have me. For better or for worse, you say it like a curse. Afraid I'm not the perfect person you think you deserve. I fix my broken parts, revive your broken heart. It's not enough. You make it worse. You make it worse. I didn't know what was happening yet. I know now, I know better now. Oh, I can see the world in a new light. I'm brand new, I can do so much better than you. Know what was happening yet. I know now, I know better now. Oh, I can see the world in a new light. I'm brand new, I can do so much better than you.
That was Worse by Della Rossa. Emma, I have to say that we talked about this briefly before we came on the air, that is a song, a darker song that has such a wonderful uplifting beat. So tell us about the song and what was the inspiration to write it.
I have a song I already released called Better, and I released that in 2023. And that song is it's a love song. It's about having the courage to let go of your fears and allow yourself to be loved by someone. And so we released that in 2023, and then in June of last year, my bass player and co-producer came up to me after a show and said, "It would be so funny if you wrote a song called Worse, since you have a song called Better." And I laughed. I thought, that's a fun idea. And then I got home and I'm like, maybe I should write that song. That's an interesting prompt. And so that was what sparked it, was to make a song that was almost the opposite of Better. And I used a lot of the melodies and like the melody structure from Better. I used that in Worse, the song. And I wanted to make it opposite thematically, but also I think for me, I feel like even though the lyrics are kind of negative, a little bit mean, I feel that it's kind of empowering, because my style of conflict resolution is, talk to somebody kindly if you are going to talk to them, or, like let it go and move forward. And so I don't really, I would never go up to someone and say, "You make it worse," and like, yell in their face. And so I think it's a kind of energy that was really fun to channel into a song, that kind of like just confident girl boss energy of just saying it as it is. And I imagine myself walking to the beat like confidently down a hall, and really like being in my own body in that way.
And I'm sure that some people would probably listen to both of those songs and say, yeah, those songs could be about the same person as well, that caused
they could say that.
stress in your life. Emma, how do people find out more about you? What's the socials? What's the website? And what are the streaming platforms?
Yeah, so my website is Ɂemadellarossa.com, and all of my social media is @emadellarossa. It's 2 M's, 2 L's, 2 S's. That's how you spell it.
We have been in conversation with Della Rossa. Emma, thanks for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
You make it work.